Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I will get to the basketball in a second because it is super rare, Stugotz, for everyone in sports where you can argue about anything to have exactly the same analysis of a game. And I believe I heard all of America, and it echoed internationally over the oceans as well into France. I believe everyone yesterday had the reaction of Nicolas Batum.
Playoff Nick.
That's what's going to happen. You play exactly, you get the Philadelphia 76ers to play exactly the game you need them to play. Turnover prone, get behind early. Their crowd is booing them. Booing them early and booing Tobias Harris late, their home crowd. And you get the inefficient games from Embiid and Maxey.
Yep.
And you get beat on offense and defense by the only man on the court and the only man I've seen in basketball this year that looks physically to me old. Like I'm so not used to. First of all, I'm surprised that he's only 35 years old.
What? How?
I'm surprised that he's only 30. Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Are you surprised that Nicolas Batum is only 35 years old? I thought Michael Jordan gave him too much money 9 years ago and that he was going to retire in Charlotte. We'll get to all of that in a second, though,
right.
but because we've got a genuine crisis on our hands here at both Meadowlark Media and our show. I don't know what to do as the leader of a company. I'm completely lost, honestly, on the fact that we clearly have a theft problem around here. Like employees are stealing things. It started with the fine bucket. Like that part, because we were so crazed in the move from the Clevelander and the move from ESPN, we really skipped past the giant betrayal of somebody reached into the fine bucket and stole all of the money. That could only have been an inside job.
Right. I feel like a lot of eyeballs are on me right now.
Well, this was not the place I ended up yesterday because for all of your crimes, generally you stay out of the food categories.
You're right.
You can be trusted to not steal food.
Correct. That's about it.
But what happened yesterday, and we've had this happen before, didn't somebody have like a sandwich or something that somebody took a bite out of that wasn't there?
I think it was Bruce, right?
Oh, yeah, that was Bruce. Bruce took that sandwich and ate it.
Our old video guy.
Okay, the guy who fell asleep during work.
Ham hands.
Yeah.
Giant hands. Mm-hmm. Giant ham hands for ham sandwiches.
Imagine him at Power Slap, Dan.
He had,
wonder what he's up to.
Well, he'd be asleep. He'd be asleep during Power Slap. He'd be asleep right now. He was always asleep. We'd walk into other rooms and he'd be asleep. But I'd like to explain the scandal that we have here, and I'd like to go through the room and get reaction because we are presently, and I hope to have this before the end of the hour, we are presently rifling through security footage to find why it is that my assistant was enraged yesterday. Elise was enraged. It was a tiny, tiny little bottle of rage where she was wandering around. And there are going to be a lot of jokes at my expense here, thinking, of course, Dan's assistant would be enraged that somebody stole his cupcakes. Like, this crime looks bad for me that my assistant would be so crazed about the fact that somebody had stolen cupcakes that she had clearly put aside.
That's the job, Dan. Be enraged on your behalf.
Okay, but she would not get enraged like this on my behalf, and there would be no need to get enraged like this on my behalf. But the reason that she was enraged and the reason that I then got scared, because nobody here has seen this side, is those were my wife's cupcakes. And while my wife is an elegant, strong swan who nobody has a bad word to say about, go ahead and steal something from her.
Right.
See what happens then. Because yesterday she was stomping around the house because a box of stuff that she'd ordered from Amazon came with one of the 5 items, because evidently now Amazon drivers, I would assume, are just going through stuff because there's just so much stuff going out, and Amazon can lose so much of it that I'm assuming that some Amazon drivers are thieves, and some of them just rifle through stuff when they want to on their last day on the job because they want to see what they could get away with. And so we often, this must happen to you guys as well, right? Do you often get packages that get the actual packages, but they've been rifled through and there are things missing?
Well, rifled through, no, but I know Amazon sometimes are like, hey, would you like to save the planet? Because we're doing it so much. We'll put everything in one box, or not, we can just send everything in 5 different boxes.
But none of you have had this happen? Because it's happened multiple times to my wife. We have genuinely, at both my home and now inside the boxes, a theft problem going on around deliveries. And now that theft problem has absolutely moved in here because it appeared to be obvious. Do you guys know who did it? Because I left here not knowing who did it.
I'm confused. Why are your wife's cupcakes here?
Well, there were some vegan, gluten-free cupcakes sent as yesterday's celebration, weird celebration about a year and a week of us being at the Elser, an anniversary celebration. And I guess somebody told somebody that cakes and cupcakes were being brought in. And this is the other problem here, and I don't know how your significant others deal with what I'm about to say. But when my wife knows that something at 11 a.m. is coming home at 3 p.m., the expectation of that, and she's excited about it,
right?
That better get home. Like whatever it is that thing is needs to get home, because now she's enthusiastic about it, and I do not wish her disappointment is something I do not want.
You're painting Valerie very intimidating. She's really sweet, right?
Oh no, I just don't want to disappoint her. That's it. It's not
you
even
coming home is not enough.
Not
I mean,
her.
The wrath
is you.
No.
Okay. I think I got you beat there.
I just want to point out something, just to make sure I heard this correctly. So these cupcakes were for the anniversary of the show being in the hotel?
Allegedly, the year and 1 week anniversary, because evidently we didn't get the date exactly right.
And the cupcakes weren't for the staff; they were for Valerie.
There were an assortment of cakes and cupcakes here yesterday for everybody, and Elise had taken the vegan and gluten-free ones, and 2 of them, and put them aside, or 3 of them, and put them aside for Valerie.
2 of them.
I'm telling you, you just said a key word there, gluten-free. I have a suspect.
Uh-oh.
Why are we deflecting from the Heat losing last night to the 76ers?
This is more important.
This is not more. People are here for Heat tears in the YouTube comments, Dan. I think you're doing a disservice. Also, it was me. I told Elise yesterday while she was looking for the cupcakes, it was me. There was no surprise that it was me.
Well, it is a surprise to me. I did not know that, and you may have told Elise, but Elise had not yet informed me. Elise had not betrayed. I still came in here today thinking there had been a crime that had been committed.
Oh, there was.
That was unsolved. I did not realize there had already been a confession because my assistant was enraged and stomping around here.
Now, Jess ate 2 cupcakes. I took 2 of them home. I didn't look at the label. I didn't look at anything. I just took 2 home. I took them to my wife. I mean, they could have been hers.
Okay,
I have no idea.
But here's one of the issues that we have. I don't know whether Jessica knew she was stealing these or not, but they were clearly put aside in a place where all the other cupcakes were someplace else.
Wow.
And Elise has a sitting area here where she had been for 2.5 hours, and it was around Elise's stuff. Like it had been clearly put aside, and I've never seen Elise this angry about anything.
Well, same. She screamed at me. Like, in all seriousness, your assistant screamed at me yesterday.
Huh.
And the reason that I thought they were for me was because my food, since I have a gluten allergy, my food is always set aside and is like the gluten-free lunch order, breakfast order, whatever. So these were set aside and they said gluten-free. So I was like, these ones are probably for me. So I ate one of them, went in the studio to record Mystery Crate. Taylor told me in my headset, Elise is mad because someone stole cupcakes. So I went out into the kitchen, as you can see there, and I was like, it was me. I thought they were for me because they said gluten-free on them, and my gluten-free, whatever we order, is usually set aside when we have like a special cake or something. And then she screamed at me, and I didn't even get the chance to tell her, I only ate one of them. You could have had the other cupcake, but since you screamed at me, I guess I'm just going to go back in the studio now and finish Mystery Crate.
For the YouTube audience, we are getting an instant replay of Elise just pointing at the table and like pointing in the other direction. She is just, you can't hear her, but you can see how frustrated she is. It's hilarious.
The other thing about this, that spot where she usually sits is where deliveries go for all of us. And so I can see where the confusion lies there.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are good teammates.
I'm with you, Dan. She stole. I think she knew everything. I think she knew what she was doing.
The difference between manslaughter and murder still ends with somebody being dead, whether your intent was good or not. And these were stolen cupcakes, whether you intended to steal them or not.
One cupcake.
Forgive me.
I only ate one.
Okay, maybe your punishment will be less because it wasn't a quantity.
Less than death?
I think
Half as much.
I don't know.
Daddy.
I don't. You tell me. You guys tell me what punishment should be. Should it be less if the theft is less of an item? It's half as much as you thought she was stealing, but she's still stealing.
We have a terrified Billy reaction to Elise.
In the middle of chaos.
All right.
As our lead detective here, I don't want to let Stugotz off the hook for a second, though.
Uh-oh.
Because it's not who you always most expect or least expect. It's the person you most medium expect is the one that actually committed the crime. And I think
I'm saying I could have done it. I have no idea.
And that's why I'm saying I want to pull on that thread a little bit more because Jess is the easy culprit. She's the gluten-free person, so we have to have cupcakes and things specialty for her. The thing is, if she's claiming that she only ate half a cupcake, which is what we have here on display in the evidence,
These are different cupcakes because, as it turns out, there were actually like 12 gluten-free cupcakes.
There was a ton of them,
Elise
right?
Could have brought home different cupcakes for your wife.
The reason why
I don't know why she didn't, Dan, because it turns out they were all gluten-free.
Well,
including the one I ate and the other 11 in the kitchen.
But hers was stolen, and that's not up for dispute. And you got a little bass in your voice for being clearly a criminal. Like,
I admitted my quote-unquote
I understood, but in the courtroom, we're going to need to make sure that you are not someone who is in contempt. Because right now, the contempt is mine and my wife's and my assistant's.
Thank you, Dan.
I love Tony trying to figure out the case after Jess has said, I ate the cupcake.
No,
that's
because
one cupcake.
That's one cupcake
Dan
of 12.
had 6 for her.
That's right.
Yes.
The reason I still point at Stugotz is because Stugotz is notorious for kind of like a smash and grab where he'll grab something close to the door and then haul ass, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we can paint a different scenario, Stugotz saw the cupcakes right by the door, didn't see anybody buy them, said, ooh, I need to take something to Abby. Let me grab these real quick. In the same breath, Jess is out getting a different set of cupcakes, bringing those over to the center here, eating those, and then at least saw her with those, not knowing that you actually stole the ones that she had from Valerie.
All right, put this on the poll, please. Is the person you most medium expect the one who always committed the crime? And if you would, Chris, please get off the ground for me for Meadowlark Media the scripted televised series of Tony, the detective who solves the case after the confession has been made.
2 more things. So after your assistant screamed at me, I thought maybe these are like the rarest cupcakes in the world. So I Googled the bakery, and it turns out they have same-day delivery all over Miami-Dade County. So
again,
I thought,
a lot of excuses when you're on trial
Dan
for
will
being
just order
a
different
criminal.
cupcakes for his wife because I think he has $30 to spare because he usually has like $2,000 in his wallet just in cash.
Well, doesn't anymore because he's got so many employees who are thieves.
Then I thought, well, I feel bad. Maybe I should text her, but she did just scream at me, so I'm just gonna let this one kind of go away for now. And then, of course, later on, everyone was posting the video that we caught in Slack. And then even later on, I saw Valerie's Instagram story, which said that she did eat a cupcake yesterday.
Yeah, because I had to come home with cupcakes.
Wow.
So no harm, no foul. Everyone got their cupcakes.
Was it a scream or a shout? Because there's a difference.
Big
there.
difference.
Yeah.
Chris, you were there. What would you describe it as?
I think it was more of a shout.
Huh.
Because I think when you shout, you're just kind of frustrated in general. A scream is more directed.
Well, let's watch the tape.
Well, hold on a second. What's the distinction between a scream and a shout? Which one is worse?
I think a scream is worse because you're directing it specifically at someone. I'm screaming at you. Where I'm shouting in frustration is a difference because it's not as pointed as a scream might be.
Roy, would you please look up for me the definition of scream and the definition of shout? We have more video being looked at. I don't know if we need the video anymore of whether or not Jessica, whether we can find intent in video of Jessica picking up the cupcake, but we do have video, I am told now, of Jessica learning at the moment that she learned while doing Mystery Crate. Just before I play this, take me through, Jessica, how it is the news is arriving, like what it is that you're feeling at this moment right before we play whatever this video is.
I'm just on my phone reading my messages, and then Taylor, who was in the control room, heard a commotion in the kitchen and then radioed me in my headset and said, Elise is screaming because someone ate her cupcakes.
Wow.
All right, let's
So
play.
this is my live reaction.
All right,
So it
live.
was a scream.
Let's see this live reaction to Elise's screaming in the other room.
There's no audio on this, so it's going to be hard to listen to.
Okay, so it's but there's her face. Okay, there's her horrified. She's looking around like she's guilty.
She couldn't look
I
more
literally
guilty.
admitted I did it.
She's
There is
admitting
no
to it.
Tony's still on
question
it.
That
Yeah.
I ate the cupcake.
Not letting you off the hook, Stu.
You know who's the most guilty?
I'm not
though?
letting myself off the hook.
The most guilty person is Chris Cody, because the entire time Elise was looking for the cupcakes, all you could hear is Chris Cody saying, "Who stole the cupcakes?"
Who stole the cupcake?
Well,
I mean, it's such a ridiculous thing. Like, I was like, are we really upset about this?
It is ridiculous, but I can speak on behalf of Chris Cody here, and I'm not sure a lot of other people can do this one. When food has been stolen, the heavy-set people in the room get a little more self-conscious than everybody else.
When I'm safe, I'm like, yeah, not me for once.
All right, we got definitions here. Shout, utter a loud cry or call, typically as an expression of strong emotion. Scream, give a long, loud, piercing cry or cries expression excitement, great emotion, or pain.
Big difference.
No, it sounds like scream is worse.
Scream and shout and let it.
Bring the action.
You know it takes a while for that part to get out, right?
Yeah, it does.
Nick Batum played with Greg Oden.
What?
And Brandon Roy.
Thank you. Can we talk about the Heat game now?
I really
Because
need. No, I really like this conversation we were having. I think it should go on for at least 7 more
Who
minutes.
saw the Nick Batum game coming?
We'll talk
You never
about that
know.
in a second. For the moment, as we sort out your punishment, Jessica, go sit in the penalty box for a couple of minutes
Wow.
for thievery.
For telling
Well,
the truth.
she took one cupcake,
No,
though,
it's-
so it should be a minute.
It's not for telling the truth.
For being yelled at by your assistant?
It is not for, it's for stealing something. Let's be clear on this, because there seems to be a lack of clarity here.
Okay.
This is a universal crime that we are now deciding the punishment to. This is not the punishment, 2 minutes. She's being thrown in the hoosegow so that we can sort out what the punishment should be for what I believe should be a lifetime type of Jonte Porter type of crime, which is the greatest crime there is around here. There is no greater crime around here than stealing food from my wife. I want it as wherever it is the Meadowlark Handbook exists, where we start writing the rules as we learn where rules are needed. If you steal food from my wife, that's the greatest crime.
I have some rules as well, though, and one of them is if it was food for Valerie. Now, I love Valerie, okay? But know what? First off, none of those cupcake trays had her name on it. And secondly, no one announced to the group, hey, there are 6 over here, and those are for Valerie.
I think
those
it's
are for Dan's wife. Because had she said that, Dan, I got to be honest, no one would have taken her cupcakes. Who's going to do that?
Agreed. Well, Bruce.
True.
And I
if
do
he's not sleeping.
I do believe, though, based on, because you guys are leaving out some important context, and these things are always important in criminal trials, like the details, the facts, the context. There is one place my assistant sits with all of her stuff.
It's a shared space, though.
It was clearly in the space where my assistant was. Now, Jessica and her legal help are saying correctly that she is saying that that's where her food gets set aside as well.
Which is true.
So that, again, but still criminal behavior. That there's an explanation for the criminal behavior does not change that it is theft.
To me, this feels like a bad labeling job. I feel like your assistant deserves a little blame here.
Yeah.
Like a 20% maybe. She could have made a note. I feel like if there's a note that says "do not touch," Jessica doesn't touch it.
That's it's fair, but this is the part that you guys don't seem to understand. In general, everyone who comes in here and sees the way that our life is thinks you all are Wolverines. And Wolverines don't pay attention to notes because there have been sandwiches and other things here and money in a piggy bank. That I didn't have to put a note on saying, hey, don't steal this. This is money in a place where maybe you usually find money, a piggy bank, but it's not money for you. This is stolen money.
Seems like we're getting mad at Jess for a different crime, though. I think this frustration around the theft and the stealing is really more about the piggy bank and not about the cupcakes.
What I'm mad about,
finders keepers,
ultimately, is we clearly have people around here who cannot be trusted. And once you steal from the piggy bank, everything becomes incriminating, even if you have a good explanation, because we've got a group of people we work with that we don't trust. What was the name of the player who stole Derek Jeter's glove? Some sort of Yankee prospect that did the single dumbest thing an athlete has done until he was topped by Jonte Porter. Who was it? It was Ruben. Was it Ruben Rivera?
I'm looking it up.
Is that Ruben Sierra?
No. He's right. Ruben Rivera.
Ruben Sierra would not have to steal anybody's glove. Ruben Sierra, for those of you who do not know, had a hit salsa album on top of being a muscular DH, and he did not need anybody's money, gloves, or merchandise.
If he wanted your glove, he'd just take your glove.
That's correct.
Right.
Put it on the
right
poll,
in front
please.
of your face.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. If Ruben Sierra wanted your glove, would he just take it from the shortstop while he was playing shortstop?
They said that Ruben Rivera, a lawyer speaking on condition of anonymity, said that Rivera took the equipment from Jeter's locker and sold it to a sports memorabilia agent.
How'd he play?
Scared Billy.
Finders keepers.
Unfortunately, while Jessica was away, we didn't discuss in any way what her punishment should be, what the larger punishment should be going forward, since we didn't have a rule in place as this happened, going forward for anyone who steals my wife's food. But Stugotz, we were denied last night. Sometimes the playoffs start, and like last season, if you have a team in the race, you feel like you're going to be eating ice cream for 2 months and not lactose intolerant dairy ice cream. Like you're going to have a good experience.
The good stuff.
Eating ice cream. And sometimes you feel like your playoff experience is just going to be the flavor of feces. And that's what last night was, where it's not just that Batum kills you. When you get exactly the game you needed from Philadelphia that was going to set up the perfect story. I don't want to watch Miami-Boston again. I wanted to watch Miami-New York.
Might be Chicago-Boston.
Correct. It might be, because Jimmy Butler, you will have the footage now. Go ahead and put up the footage of Jimmy Butler limping out of the arena last night. I thought Duncan Robinson was available last night. I was really frustrated just watching that their only offense is just going to be Tyler Hero shooting 33%. Because once Jimmy got hurt, and by the way, got hurt after having 5 steals. Had 5 steals.
He had some good steals after the injury, too.
Yeah, but that 5th steal, the one where he had the layup, that's where he seemed to really hurt his knee again after the first injury.
He was struggling.
Yeah,
he was really laboring out there, and you knew once he went in for halftime and had to sit for a minute, there was no way he was going to come back.
But for all the load management that has wrecked the interest in the regular season, you haven't gotten to the playoffs yet, and you got Butler, Embiid, and Giannis already done, already lessened, not done.
And Zion too.
Yeah, already. You haven't even gotten to the off part of the playoffs. You're still in the in part, and Giannis off the court. Embiid probably shouldn't have even been playing last night. Wouldn't have been playing, I don't think, if it's a regular season game.
He was great in the second half, though. I mean, he was.
He made,
for a guy that's hurt, 23 and 15.
There were 2 guys hurt late, and one of them won the game, and one of them didn't. Embiid made the passes and did the things, but he was not the MVP of the league last night. That was a diminished. That's as bad as he's going to play.
Nick Batum was.
Did we decide if it was a scream or a shout? Did we do that?
All eyes on us. I wanna scream and shout and let it.
That timing, comedically perfect by you, Chris Cody.
Can I put the Nicolas Batum game in a little perspective for us?
Sure.
Can you guys guess how many points he averaged this season?
Oh, no, they said it during the broadcast. Yeah.
5 points
Yeah.
he averaged. You know how many times this season he scored double digits?
How many?
Guess. 82 games.
If he's averaging 5 a game, he wasn't even playing that much. In fact, listen, you didn't just lose last night to Philadelphia. You lost to Philadelphia playing Kyle Lowry, Batum, and Kelly Oubre.
7 times he scored double digits.
Another fun Batum stat, which is great, is 20 points in that game. The last time he scored 20 or more points, 8 years ago.
Right.
Against the Miami Heat in Game 1 of the playoffs for Charlotte.
I just want to reiterate one little thing.
Yeah.
He averaged 5 points. He hit 6 threes last night.
He's capable of that. He is. You left out
Not
Buddy
for 8
Hield.
years, though. He hasn't done it in 8 years.
I did leave out Buddy Hield. These are all players Stugotz discovered were still in the league last night. Are you guys aware?
Well, Hield, I thought, was with Sacramento. Batum, I thought he retired like 7 years ago.
Well, you stopped paying attention to Batum 2 teams ago. I think Hield had another stop.
Hield was in Indiana for 3 years.
Right.
He was?
Yes.
3 years.
Yes.
Wow.
But the best Hield stat is this one. Are you guys aware that yesterday was Buddy Hield's 85th game of the season? It was his 85th game of the season. Because of being traded, he played extra games. He went into that game having played 84
Bonus
games. I don't think anyone's ever done that before. I don't think that that's happened before, even with all the trades in the league. And
There should be like a most games played award at the end of the season.
Well, he would.
Like perfect attendance.
He got it, right.
But for all of that, for all of the load management and everything else, you've still now got injury problems that make the East a lot easier for Boston.
You had to miss Lowry if you're a Heat fan. I mean, that's what he does.
That first quarter, it's like, okay, this is your answer for Jimmy. You're going to put Lowry on him.
Right.
He didn't do anything last game. The thing is, Lowry didn't do anything, Stu.
You look at the box score, and you don't see a lot of stats. But you know what? You can't measure a man's heart and championship pedigree.
You know what? I saw a lot of missed threes. I saw a lot of air balls from him.
And he was +1. I mean,
Stugotz, did you watch the game last night?
I did. They won by 1. He was +1.
That's not what that means.
What?
That's the difference.
I'm just saying. Listen, he gets in people's way. He plays defense. He hustles. He makes countless winning plays. I'm telling you, the Heat regret it. If they had Lowry on their team last night, they win.
They
Where was Terry?
They did have him on the court in that final possession, and he did almost blow it. And he finally got the ball out.
Mm-hmm. They're moving on.
Speaking of blowing it, it's a tie game on the road you have to have. How about not a half-court violation?
Well, that was a foul.
That was a foul.
It just blatantly was a foul.
Please.
Nick Batum pushed him. Like, it is what it is. Tyler Hero didn't play well for the majority of that game. He was playing well in the final few minutes of that game. That possession was poorly executed, but it it just blatantly obvious, and it's going to come out on the 2-minute report. Oh, sorry, we messed up. It was a foul, and there's nothing you can do now. You had the ball tied with a minute left.
But in a one-point game, we could do this about a number of things.
Could.
And one of the things we could do it about is, you know how infrequently the Heat lose at not making their free throws. They lose by 1 last night. They didn't make their free throws. The way they beat you is they don't turn the ball over. They steal it. They drag the game into an unpleasant watch so it doesn't feel anything like Chicago and Atlanta. They're ruining offensive basketball aggressively by playing fundamentally well. And when they get their free throws, they make them better than you, except last night when they did not.
2 things. Tyler Hero, sell the flop. Second thing, maybe learn how to flop from Embiid after this free throw, because I don't know what happened here. He fell awkwardly and the broadcast they just blew by it.
Embiid flops as much as anyone in the league. I don't know. Blake Griffin retired yesterday, and he had that reputation for a long time, and James Harden had it for a long time.
He learned it from him, too.
Embiid on a technical free throw, though, falling to his knees because...
The rare flop.
You know what it is when you let that thing go, you feel like it's a little shorter or a little longer. You're like, please go. Oh, okay, I went in.
Real hoopers know.
You will it in, yeah.
Exactly right.
I mean, people surprised Batum can have that game or had that game last night. I'm sorry. Batum is capable of having that game.
He hasn't had it in 8 years.
I don't care. Real hoopers know.
He's right
Nicolas
about that.
Batum can put up that game at any given moment.
Not in the last 8 years.
At any given moment.
Again, though, but in all of the given moments in the last 8 years,
he hasn't done it, but last night he did.
He saved it.
Right.
He could have done it, but he didn't do it. But he could have done it.
Right.
He did it. Sean says that Jimmy Butler is expected to be out multiple weeks for the MCL injury.
I have a top 5 reasons the Heat lost if you guys want that.
Really?
Yeah.
Do not.
Thanks, Dan. Why am I here? What's my job? Aren't I here to talk about the Heat? Isn't that why I was hired?
No.
Maybe. What am I here for?
I don't know.
Go sit in the penalty box.
Top 5.
You're here to do that.
For
Go to the
that.
penalty box.
Literally, I'm the only one who knows. God.
Yeah. What? You're the only one who knows? Go ahead and put up that tweet of all that Jeremy...
Ultimately, I was going to be
out!
right. I was going to be right.
Don't use another microphone! He was
I let you down
be
there.
Right.
Dan, I should have stopped him from using this microphone.
Yes,
I'm
you
sorry.
should have.
I'm sorry.
You have a sick form of justice.
Jeremy...
Sick application of justice. You know what would have never happened if we had a regular office and not an open concept? I would have never thought those cupcakes were for everyone, because they would have been in Elise's desk in her cubicle. And instead, they were just in the middle of the office on a table.
Fair.
Go sit in the penalty box.
Oh, man.
Criminal. You know what I should do to you? Go sit in the penalty box, cupcake.
Oh.
Do you work for the Indy Star?
That thing.
We'll get to Greg Doyle in a second.
Jeez.
Greg Doyle of the Indianapolis Star started the press conference and the welcome of Caitlin Clark kind of the way the Heat started the postseason.
Lecherous?
The worst possible way. But let me read Jeremy Taché. Am I not here for my Heat analysis? He writes before the game, Tyler Hero is going to do the thing this postseason. I could feel it in my bones, and how poetic that would be.
He did the thing, all right.
He was not terrible last night.
What?
9 of 27.
9 of 27.
He hit some shots down the stretch.
They asked
though.
a
He
lot
did.
of him late.
Yeah.
I just think yes, he was inefficient slightly, but I'm not going to criticize Tyler
It's not
Hero.
slightly inefficient, Chris. Like the modern age of basketball, Kobe White scoring 42 last night is impressive. More impressive is doing it on 15 for 21 and
Yes.
doing it efficiently. There are some DeJounte Murray got 44 points earlier this season on 44 shots. That's not a good game. It's just simply any coach in the league or assistant coach in the league will say that if you hold a guy to a point per shot, you have done your job defensively. And Tyler Hero last night had more shots than points. That is not that he can get 27 shots and miss 2/3 of them is not a good basketball game.
I'm just saying I don't think he's the reason to criticize the Heat. Jimmy got hurt, and if Jimmy's not hurt, that game's different. Tyler played well in that fourth quarter. I'm not going to argue. You can't argue he was efficient.
He hit a couple shots.
He was clutch late in that game. I'm not going to criticize
hit
him.
some shots.
I could criticize Bam more than him.
But also, handling the ball, he was all over the place. Getting around screens, he couldn't. Like, there was a moment where Nick Batum was on him like a glove.
Oh, no,
he couldn't get around Nick Batum, who's played 9,000 years in the NBA.
Tony said he could get around Nick Batum.
I could get around Nick Batum on a screen.
That's insane.
What?
Yeah.
He did say that.
And we're going to let that guy talk about it.
That guy, buddy. I haven't seen you touch a basketball in 15 years. Get out of here. See
That's
ya.
how we do basketball analysis? Really? That's it?
You said you got hired here to talk Heat basketball, and Dan kicked you out.
Yeah, because that's become the bit of the show. Let's make fun of Jeremy for everything he says.
That's the bit, huh?
Go ahead and sit up.
See
Go,
ya,
go,
yeah.
go.
Oh,
Good.
man.
Go again, please. Thank you.
Anyways, long story short is that if you're going to play point guard, you have to control the ball and you have to play well handling the ball. There was no other point guard for the Miami Heat. That was it. It was Tyler, and then he had to also put up shots. It's an impossible spot for him to try and do something, but also he played kind of like a whatever game.
I do agree that we've learned what Tyler is. He's below Maxey. Like, he's not an elite star.
Chris, you're right. He hit some big shots down the stretch of the game last night when they needed them because Jimmy Butler was hurt.
I'm just not blaming him for that loss, is what I'm saying.
We can sit here after they lose by a point and criticize whatever it is that you want. They lost by a point. What I'm telling you is they went on the road to play a game that would have made their path easier, and they lost it when defensively they got Philadelphia to play exactly the game they needed them to play. Philadelphia was terrible in that first half, turning the ball over again and again. Embiid being hurt, I'm telling you, I've watched Embiid a lot over the last 4 seasons. It's rare, even now, for me to watch a LeBron game, for example, and see the age on him. I could see it on defense. I could see it sometimes how he moves in terms of lumbering, but it can still be hard to discern age even on the oldest player in the league. It was not hard to discern injury on this. The MVP of the league was limited yesterday. The MVP of the league, who has a distinct advantage over Bam that very few have, maybe Jokic, very few have, did not take Bam into the post and abuse him, did not take advantage of the foul trouble that Bam was in, got himself into foul trouble. That was not one of the best players in the league last night. At the end of the game, he had the stat line. But that's not how Joel Embiid plays. It's the game you need him to play when you're going to eliminate him from the playoffs.
I think actually the way Embiid had to play last night because of being limited, he was at the top of the key a lot. It brought Bam out. It actually hurt the Heat. It opened things up. They were driving, kicking stuff out. Like, I think that
Chris,
actually ended up backfiring.
Nick Nurse made that adjustment at half. He did. He talked about it after the game.
I understand the adjustment, but the Heat will tell you, fine with your adjustment. Someone other than Embiid is going to beat us? Go ahead, Nicolas Batum. Go ahead. We'll take our chances with someone other than Maxey or Embiid. And it's what happened. Like, yes, you're absolutely right. Pulling Bam out of the key, getting him into foul trouble. Bam was not effective last night.
No.
And he deserves more criticism than Tyler Hero because he's the centerpiece of everything they do defensively. But they were good defensively last night. And, of course, Nick Nurse is going to have to make adjustments. And if Embiid and Maxey don't beat you, if I tell you before that game, here's the Heat's game plan. Embiid and Maxey are not going to be what beats them. You're like, okay, sign me up. I'm the biggest underdog in all the play-in games.
The Heat win, yeah.
Philadelphia's won 8 straight. They look great when Embiid looks healthy. They look great. They look like somebody who could actually challenge Boston, even though they've had no success against Boston. But not with him limping around, not with him clearly diminished. That's where we're going to start the playoffs with that team. And the other thing that you had an emotionally fragile franchise ready to fold for you. Their crowd was booing them in the first quarter. They've won 8 straight. That's the part that's just maddening. So blame everybody. Go ahead and blame everybody. The Shams report, because there are some details in here that we did not talk about. It's not just the expectation that Miami's Jimmy Butler will be out multiple weeks, according to sources. Shams is saying that he played the final 3 quarters with what is now feared to be an MCL injury. So go ahead and put up on the screen the horrified look of Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley as they saw Jimmy Butler go down before the playoffs, and they gasped, and all the other people around them are still, the Sixer fans, they're still buoyant, and they'll forever remember Caleb Martin for turning that game around by missing 2 free throws and getting free chicken for everybody.
Got the crowd into the game, Dan.
He did. What are they? Were the Heat up by 11 at that point?
It was either 11 or 9. I'll go look specifically.
Yeah.
They were up 11.
They were up, and Caleb Martin missed 2 free throws, and everything after that was all glorious Nicolas Batum.
Uncle Mo. Momentum shifter right there, Dano.
Yep.
On the fried chicken.
Yes.
Clearly on the fried chicken.
Great promotion. Great timing.
They were up 11.
Yeah. That
7 minutes left in the third.
And
pivotal point in the game.
Again, a minute left. You're tied on the road and backcourt violation.
I mean, Caleb finally gave that crowd something to cheer about. They were booing, as you stated, in the first quarter. Why? Because Philadelphia. That's why. But then Caleb Martin finally gave them some positive news. Free chicken. Who doesn't love free chicken?
I'd like to just revisit with the group for just a second. Vegans and vegetarians.
Oh.
And anybody who cares about how chickens are generally treated and processed.
And it was Chick-fil-A sponsoring, so it's a whole other element.
But I do just simply want to put in front of everybody how fragile a state you're in organizationally when you're known for having your best player only because you famously lost on purpose to collect a bunch of first-round picks, none of whom panned out, some of whom flamed out. Multiple first-round picks flame out with mental short-circuiting. Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons. Mm-hmm. Multiple first-round picks. The one you have still standing from your collection of just being terrible for a long time, so terrible that the league had to step in and remove your general manager and put a Colangelo in so that you could get to the expectations of where you were when Dr. J and Allen Iverson played there in a town that's so hostile that in the first quarter, your home fans are booing you because you're playing so terrible, throwing the ball away again and again, and Jimmy Butler's got 5 steals because you're playing so sloppy, as Stugotz tells you how well Kyle Lowry played.
He did.
Stugotz, you could not have been watching Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry gave every Heat fan the reminder of that's why he's not with us anymore, and that's why I didn't like that he was here at the end.
+1, 1 point game.
That's why he's one of the most unpopular players in Heat history and one of the worst signings in Heat history. That was supposed to be a big 4 that was playing in Miami, and everyone immediately turned on Kyle Lowry. But the greater point I'm making to you is that everyone wants to think that the Boston Celtics, that their only fatal flaw is that they're emotionally fragile, that they have mental weakness. Charles Barkley will say it. This organization has that. This organization was ready to crumble last night. And then free chicken arrived.
Yep, Chick-fil-A.
And it made everything better.
It's an actual nightmare. Like, the idea that Chick-fil-A is what did this is just, it's unfathomable.
Well, doing the Lord's work.
Caleb Martin is the person who did this. I mean, blame him. You want someone to blame today, blame Caleb.
It's a long list.
I prefer to blame Chick-fil-A.
It's a long list. Go ahead and just keep in the corner for me, please, of the screen, just the look of Zoe and Pat Riley on behalf of the entirety of the fan base. I think the greatest facial look that we've played in the last hour is Billy's, followed by Jess's, followed by Elise's, in terms of just facial despair, readings, being able to read what somebody's face is saying without a word being exchanged. We have had a party of great facial features. I am now ready, Jeremy, for your top 5 reasons that the Miami Heat lost last night.
All right. OLI, the non-call on the backcourt violation.
It's got to be on there.
It's OLI.
It's playoff basketball, though. Like, it's going to be a physical game.
It's going to come out on the 2-minute.
Jeremy and I are not sitting here saying that's why they lost.
That's why it's OLI.
But it was a bad call. Like, can we just all agree it could have been called better, that play?
I would not agree with that.
Okay.
In the last minute of games, I would like the players to be allowed to play and don't be so sloppy near the half-court line. Like, you don't allow a player to be in a position to push you into losing.
Can we make some sort of wager if it's on the 2-minute report or not?
Sure.
If they admit that it
Free
was
chicken.
a no call?
Anytime that's by the baseline, they call that foul.
They call that foul.
Like, it is when the half-court line is a baseline.
Kelly Oubre had the same defense against Tyler Hero. He went to the sideline and then got bailed out with that call. Like, they were not going to call it again.
Number 5.
Bam's 2 early fouls. It changed the whole game. Bam Adebayo has historically defended Joel Embiid actually pretty well, despite giving up the size advantage and not being able to go one-on-one, exposing the zone that actually worked earlier and earlier in the game than they wanted to deploy it is kind of what messed everything up with the rotation.
Yeah, so we can blame this entire game on Tony Brothers then.
Yeah. Be clear on something I am saying about Bam and Joel Embiid. Bam defends everyone well, and no one defends Joel Embiid well. There is no such thing. So Joel Embiid gets whatever he wants against everybody, but Bam is one of the best defenders in the league. And I would say that in terms of guys, and you can look this up for me, who give Bam problems without having looked up the numbers, Jokic and Embiid would be the physical types, I would imagine, that would be able to get him into foul trouble.
Jeremy, you say that, but they were up 12 at half.
But they
were up 12 at half.
There's a difference, though, in the full length of the game, right? Because that zone defense with that array of players helped to shut things down. But by playing that zone defense for such a huge chunk of the first half, it gave Nick Nurse an opportunity to adjust, put Joel Embiid at the top of the key, and not have that as sort of a secret weapon you could bring out in the second half from having played Bam one-on-one against Joel Embiid as much as you did. The Heat don't have an overwhelming offense, so the way that they get by is with their defense, and by having to use that zone as early as they did, with as deep as they had to go in the rotation, that's what kind of messed things up long term. Number 4, no Terry Rozier or Duncan Robinson. Tyler Hero had to take 27 shots. He was the entire offense for them late in the game. That worked out. Tyler's a great player in the final few minutes of the game, but he was so inefficient at the beginning. Jimmy Butler being hurt, which we'll get to, obviously made it so that now not only were you without playoff Jimmy, you're without Terry Rozier.
I'd like you to be more efficient.
You're without Duncan Robinson.
Yep.
I'd like you to be more
Shorten
efficient.
it up.
Number 3, the French. And guess what? That gives us time for a mini top 5 inside this top 5. Number 5, reasons to hate the French. Number 5, Jean Valjean was given 19 years in prison for stealing bread.
Sounds like someone I know.
Number 4, they can eat nothing but brie and bread and are still in better shape than the rest of us. Number 3, Boris Diaw. Number 2, they have more sex than anyone. 137 times a year. I mean, fuck that. And number 1, Nick Batum.
Boris Diaw isn't hated.
What he did to the Heat.
Beloved.
Get him out of here.
He's
great.
a roly-poly heavy basketball
Love that
player.
guy.
Those are always allowed to be beloved, no matter what they do to your favorite team.
Number 2, Jimmy Butler's injury.
Now we're back to reasons the Heat lost.
Yeah, we're back to reasons that he lost.
Who's John Valjean?
137 times.
2, 4, 6, 0, 1.
I couldn't do it.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. What, have sex 137 times a year?
No, I could not do that.
How many Sundays are there in a year?
Put it on the poll.
I'm rusty.
At Le Batard Show. So's your penis. At Le Batard Show.
Hey!
Do the French eat nothing but brie and are in better shape than us? Yes or no?
That's the cigarettes.
I must be French. Tony, fist me.
And number 1,
Fist me.
free chicken. Look, I consider myself to be a pretty great ally to the LGBTQ community. I hate Chick-fil-A more today than I ever have.
Speaking of which, I see now that Emeritus is NBA refs are going to have to wear the Emeritus
Emirates,
advertising, even though Dubai and that region of the country or that region of the world is less friendly there than any. That's a bad spot for your LBGT referees to be in, with your most progressive leagues, where they have to wear that as advertising. Stugotz, are you watching how much coverage is going out on the story that inside Bill Belichick's failed job hunt that ESPN is doing?
Yeah, it's crazy because well, first off, Bellichick, who's now going to do McAfee, and he's going to join him for the draft, and Billy and I have a draft party, and we're not certain what to do now because they have Bellichick, and I'm thinking we get Steve Belichick. I don't know what to do. I'm worried about that.
You're worried? Well, McAfee's draft party every year is like 500,000 people are watching, so you're competing against that draft party, which is going to have Bill Belichick signed on to do stuff, and you don't know what you're going to do as your counter-programming?
I'd like to do our draft party, if possible, Dan. Maybe we can look into this here at Meadowlark, at McAfee's draft party. I want to be inside his draft party doing our draft party. But anyway, back to Belichick.
But you'll be in Michigan.
That's a good point.
We're also efforting to have Brady on ours.
Really? Okay.
Tom?
Yeah.
We didn't specify.
We're efforting.
A Brady.
A Tom Brady. I'm assuming.
Love a good effort.
Robert Kraft should be ashamed of himself. I'm serious. I mean, the way he is smearing Bill Belichick after he left New England with that documentary, with this report, another deep dive by Seth Wickersham, he should be ashamed of himself. Bill Belichick has raised the value of his franchise exponentially. He has won him 6 Super Bowls. He has made that lousy organization one of the marquee organizations in the NFL. And I don't understand what Robert Kraft is doing, calling Arthur Blank, and he should be ashamed of himself as well, because Arthur Blank, make your own decisions. What the hell are you doing? You're going to let Bob Kraft impact who you're going to hire at head coach? Get the hell out of here. Your organization is lousy. It will always be lousy. You'll never be good. And Bob Kraft, the only reason your organization is good is because of Bill Belichick. He deserves better.